afternoon. Happy Tuesday. It's just us again. Casey here, member engagement for NNBA.
And Nena Hart. I'm the president of the NNBA.
And we're still just talking about, this is week 2 of our Career Compass series. So we're just talking about non-traditional roles for nurses. I know there's a lot of confusion around career alternatives, but basically we just want to bring some light to the things that you can do as a nurse outside of bedside care if you're not ready to start your own business or not interested in starting your own business. So we'll just jump right into it. We're going to be pretty quick on this one because it's warm outside, but I wanted to ask you, because you've had so much experience, we talked a lot about this yesterday. And if you see us both fidgeting, it's because we both have fidgets. But what does non-traditional roles in nursing mean to you?
Well, I think for the purpose of what we're talking about, it's more of anything that's not direct patient care or bedside nursing. So where you clock in, you go to your assigned unit, you have your assigned group of patients, whether they be patients that you take care of for that day and never see again, or in long-term care, you're caring for the same group of patients for a long period of time. So to me, non-traditional means equals not bedside or not direct patient care.
Yeah.
So that could be even leadership level, corporate leadership, or even some middle manager roles don't have direct patient care. A lot of middle manager roles do. So RN supervisor, unit manager, a lot of those still do a good amount of patient care, or end up having to cover an assignment if somebody doesn't show.
Right.
So those are generally not this is just opinion. This is not a fact. To me, those are not non-traditional. You're still getting that assigned group of patients. You're still providing direct care, especially if there's a call off, you're working the floor. So this is more kind of next steps, more away from patient care, no patient contact or very minimal patient contact or remote patient contact. Yeah. So you're not in person, a case manager role or a care navigator role or care coordinator or I really am loving education roles for this right now. I think that it is such a perfect blend of our skills and abilities as nurses, and also feeling like we're helping people and making an impact and still using our clinical skills. So education is doing it for non-traditional nursing for me right now.
But nursing really is education.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You
gotta think whenever you give a patient a new medication, you have to tell them what it is, what the side effects are, how they should be taking it. And a lot of, depending where you're working, they have a ton of questions, and you have to educate them on some medications, like what foods not to eat with it, or when to take it during the day, or just what lifestyle changes they need to make. So, we're natural educators as nurses anyways. So I think that's a really good way to pivot your career. If you're not loving the bedside part, but you like patient, talking to patients and educating them or educating other nurses, I think those are really good options.
Agreed.
Yeah. There are also a lot of different categories of non-traditional roles. You can do tech, you can do nurse informatics or data analytics. You can do consulting, you could own your own business. You could consult on owning your own business as a nurse. Creative things, you can be an educator, like we said. You could be a nurse writer. What are the roles that you see nurses going towards right now? I know you said education, but what is really popular right now?
Well, the trends right now are telehealth and remote roles, but I will say the more nurses I talk to, the harder this is to get into. And a lot of companies, this is internal, which is great if you're at the bedside and you're ready to transition and move your career to a non-patient facing role. That's the perfect next step, is to find an internal remote role. But That being said, there's a lot of competition for those roles because they pay well.
And that would be like utilization review? Is that like what you're talking
case
about?
management, care navigator, care coordinator, even a lot of the education roles are remote now. Surveyor type of compliance, QA roles, quality roles.
Honestly, sales too, as a nurse. I had a ton of flexibility. I made great money. I loved doing sales.
I think sales is very non-traditional nursing role. I mean, we don't think of it that way because it's its own category. Like sales and marketing is its own category in career terms. But for nurses, a lot of nurses are really good at it and don't think they would be because they don't think they can sell things.
Yeah. But I mean, you gain so much credibility just being a nurse, and like those care transition coordinator roles, that is a lot of times like has a marketing aspect, and just being able to go in and say, I'm a nurse and in my opinion, I would do this. That is super valuable. And then you don't really have to sell as much because they already believe you and trust you. So,
and again, I can't say enough that I think these are skills we're already using. You may need training for certain pieces of the role, certain metrics, certain terms, certain benchmarks, certain internal processes, but like in general, we don't realize that we already have these skills, like you said, from explaining medications to a patient, from advising and giving that super experienced perspective to patients or families. Even in a sales role, you're saying, I've seen this before and I don't recommend that you go straight home from here. I definitely recommend that you go to a rehab. Here's the one I represent. Here's what we offer there. Here are 2 other competitors' names, or whatever. If you're a case manager, you're probably providing a lot of that advisement to families who are discharging or admitting or whatever resources they need.
Yeah. And then word of mouth, of course, when you are reliable and you make a good decision, like or they make a good decision based off of your input, that is also huge. But what is something about non-traditional nursing that you think nurses don't like really understand, or something that they're surprised by once they get into it?
I would say that would be what I would say.
Yeah, that's
that they already have the skills that they need to do the job and they don't believe that they do, but also that a lot of the times when you move from a traditional role, it's very task-based. You're at the bedside, you check your boxes. Did I get my vitals? Did I go turn and reposition? Did I get the aide to help the aide give a bath? Did I get them up in the chair? Did we meet our care plan goals for today? Did I check in with the family? Did I make sure all the boxes are checked? Did I go in and do the functional evaluation score? And you have an outline for how your day looks. You know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, other than, you have a patient crash or a family member complain, there's always unexpected things, but you kind of know you're going to be on this unit or this unit. You're going to be with this section or this section. In a non-traditional role, there is so much less structure and more autonomy that I do think that prepares you for entrepreneurship a lot better. That's why I love education and leadership.
Yeah.
And when I'm coaching nurses who are coming from education or leadership, they are prepared at a level that bedside nurses generally aren't, because they don't expect to be handed the answers.
Right.
They've already got this autonomy, this decision-making, this critical thinking, that they know they're not going to be handed a schedule, and at 9:00 you should do this, and at 9:30 you should be done with this. They have to make that up for themselves.
Which can be very hard. Yeah.
Super challenging.
Yeah.
For me, it's challenging for me every day to make my own schedule as my own boss, so I'm certainly not judging that that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, that was going to be the next thing I brought up, was just kind of like the red flags of these jobs. If you are someone, like, I have always enjoyed jobs where I was told what to do, because then I feel very like, well, I got everything done right away. I'm such an effective employee. And then when I started working, I like that. And so like when I started working on my own, there were all these things I loved. Like, for instance, yesterday I had a migraine. I was like not able to function. I still did some work, but I was limited. And I just kept thinking, like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine caring for other people right now while I'm so sick, or calling out and being worried about my my paycheck being short. So like that is something I love, but also like when you wake up and you know that so many things have to be done, you have to like be very like a self-starter, which can be a little hard. I think also something that people don't like to go into non-traditional roles for is sometimes they're based on like bonuses and stuff, and so you don't actually know how much you're making. I think that's the perception. What do you have anything about that?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes right in line with shifting from that topic, is like if you're not self-motivated and you're waiting for someone to hand you your tasks, you're not probably going to be ready to go above and beyond, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people get thrown into that and thrive. They're like, this is my jam. This is sink or swim, and I'm going to swim.
Mm-hmm.
And they just go, right? And they get the bonuses. That's what happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
honestly.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm just like, any means possible, right? There was no structure. There was no like guidelines on what I was supposed to be doing. So I also like got in trouble after the fact. They're like, you can't do that. I'm like, well, who said? You know, like nobody, no one's helping me here.
Yeah.
So like I'm just doing it. But it puts you in kind of a weird position to make those decisions, and depending on the job and the autonomy. I will say what I see a lot with remote roles, and I'm talking about hundreds of nurses have told me this, or I've seen comments in remote nursing Facebook groups, is they're looking for this job, this perfect job, and unfortunately it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So they get this remote job. They have to have a mouse wiggler that wiggles their mouse every 5 minutes so they don't get in trouble for being underproductive.
Yeah.
They have a supervisor listening to every call they make, and when they give the patient advice, they get in trouble because they should have ordered an unnecessary
What was that?
Stink bug.
Okay.
An unnecessary noise. That's my stink bug noise. I don't like them. Now it's live for the world to hear, but which I'm so grateful for.
I can't wait to screenshot that.
Thank you, and send me that on my phone every day for the rest of my life.
Uh-huh.
But I think there's this implied understanding that that's gonna bring satisfaction, and then they find the opposite, that they feel like they're being micromanaged. They feel like they're not able to help people. They have to give this recommendation that the insurance company or the utilization management policy of the company says you have to give, and they're like, no, that's not right, you know. And then they're feeling boxed in to this position, like I have to tell this patient they have to do XYZ, and I feel like it's not right. For example, during COVID, so many nurses quitting those kind of jobs because their company policies changed on a dime, and they disagreed with them, and they said, I am not going to tell my patients to do this. Or now they're not covering this because this happened, right? So it's COVID, and we stopped covering XYZ and started forcing this treatment plan or this protocol, and they felt like now they they literally lost their job over it. So there's a lot of limitations to the remote jobs that I don't think people anticipate. Like being trapped in front of your computer from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., having to make a minimum of one call every 15 minutes all day. So if you have a headache, you literally can't do your job, or you're still trapped in front of that computer all day and you have to get a minimum of this many calls in. So I do think there are things that we don't anticipate about roles that we think might bring us more freedom. And maybe in some ways they do. And I know there are roles that work really, really well for nurses out there that are non-traditional, that even do have limitations that nurses just work around, and they're like, well, you know, this is no problem. And so I think it's just finding what is best for you.
And I really, like, I know obviously with the NNBA, this is what we preach all the time, but unless, I mean, even with these career alternatives, like you're never going to have full freedom as an employee.
Right.
I just always think about that first like contract job I got with the psychiatrist, and I decided I wanted to move to Hawaii, and I didn't have to ask anyone or do anything. I just told him when I got there, like, hey, I'm no longer an 3 hours in front of you. I'm actually 2 hours behind you now. So just so you know, and it's just like, obviously there's a ton of responsibility, and you have to, be a self-starter for that kind of stuff as well. But you're never going to find like true freedom or like your perfect role as someone's employee probably. But even, owning your own business, there's going to be things you hate. So,
I think you just have more control. It's a level of control over what happens to you externally, because even if you're an employee of your own business, you have to follow your own policies.
Yeah.
And so depending on the business that you have, if you set up a clinic and you make policies for your clinic and you work at your clinic, you're an employee of yourself and you still have to follow that.
Right.
However, you have control over whether the clinic shuts down and closes. That's your decision, right? And if you're an employee, and that, like when I was recruited, you can change the policy. Exactly. Policy doesn't work, you change it. But like for me, when I moved to Hawaii for that CEO job, I thought that employment was like an agreement or a contract, and it was guaranteed that I would have a paycheck, and they let me go for no reason. And that could happen to anybody in any job that you have. You're still kind of at the mercy of what they decide to do. They could let go. And one of the highest risks with some of these non-traditional jobs that prevent nurses from trying them is a real issue that they eliminate these roles a lot. They eliminated all these COVID nurse roles. They eliminated their entire department. I know multiple hospice and home health, home care companies that eliminated their entire remote nurse force. Hundreds of nurses across the country lost their jobs. So,
and that happened to me. After, just for reference, that happened to me. They were like, we have this role, costs too much money, and we have someone else that can do it for cheaper, so we're just getting rid of the role. If you want to like work as a floor nurse, we'll hire you as a floor nurse. I'm like, no, you just like, so it can just happen like that, and you just have no control over it. And that is really I know this might be like a negative or fatalistic approach to nursing, but I feel like if you are working for someone else, you always have to have like one foot out the door, because you have no control over what happens.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's the mindset most nurses have now. And I think employers know that, number one. And that's why you could literally, unfortunately, drop dead today and they would have your position posted by the end of the day. And I know that's not like, I understand both sides of it. I've been in a leadership position where if somebody fell off the earth, I would have to replace them immediately, because operationally we couldn't sustain it without them. But also like knowing that your employees, the one thing they can control is if they quit.
Sorry,
it's really aggressive stink bug flying, kamikaze stink bug up here, like really aggressively. But I think that's creating and contributing to a lot of the culture we're seeing right now. It's in my hair. Please flick it off my head. I feel it.
It's not on your head. Okay. Oh, it's on your head.
Yeah, I know.
Please hold
it away.
Family.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
I think I handled that really well. So I think this is over.
Yeah. Now that there's more viewers than there was the whole time.
So that's entertainment. This is real reality TV right here. That was a stink bug in my hair. But I think this is contributing to the culture we're seeing in healthcare right now. And it's not positive for the most part. But it is showing nurses that they have other alternatives. They have choices they can make. They can choose how they are willing to be treated and what they're, I think when you see, even from job to job, when you see like, wait a second, I'm doing all this, being treated poorly, being stretched to my limit, feeling burnout, feeling unappreciated. And then you see someone at another company, and this is like social media is giving us this where we didn't have this before. You see someone in another role who's like, I'm treated well. I have mental health days. I have sick days if I need them. And you're like, wait a second, I get threatened to be fired if I am ill or if my child needs me. I can't live like this. And you have the right to exercise your ability to quit and go somewhere else and probably start at a higher rate, brand new at another company. And these are the things that I think we're seeing across the board in healthcare, that nurses are like, hey, why shouldn't I? I mean,
and a lot of these companies are really reactive, not proactive. So they lose all their nurses, and then they're like, okay, we'll pay an extra X amount. And it's like, well, I would have stayed. I asked for that amount and you said no. And then now I had to leave and now you're doing it.
Right.
So, anyways, I think
nurses are looking for, just to try and be a little more positive, which is not my nature.
Yeah.
I think nurses are looking for that right company, especially for these non-traditional roles. They're out there actively searching for the right fit for them because they want to show up and be a great employee. Mm-hmm. They have a lot to contribute. They have a lot to offer. They have all this skill and expertise, and they are literally looking for the opportunity to give that to a company.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I was looking for jobs, that's what I was looking for too. I mean, I like showing up and doing a good job. Like I said, I like the gold star.
Yeah.
I like being nominated for things. I like being seen. I liked being a part of a team. But when you go somewhere and you feel like, wow, no one's noticing that I'm going above and beyond. I'm not getting paid what I should be. I don't enjoy this job. I feel like I'm getting in trouble if I need a day off. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just like doesn't create a good morale. But so I know we want to wrap this up pretty soon. So I want to kind of close out with like mindset. So as obviously we don't have super positive outlooks on
yes, we do.
Employment.
No.
But I mean that's what led us here. So sometimes I think you got to kind of get kicked in the butt to realize that there's better opportunity for you. You know, they say like rejection is redirection.
Yeah, but I like that.
What is the number one like mindset change a nurse needs to make before they apply for a role that is non-traditional? I think what I'm gathering from you is maybe that just to be open. It might not be what you wanted, but you can always go back. It might not be what you expected, but what would you say?
I'm ready for something different. I think if you're doing bedside, you're burnout consistently, even in the best situation, and you love bedside. Like for me, like just my experience, I actually love taking care of patients. When I was a hospice case manager, even on call after hours, I loved meeting people and taking care of them in their home. I don't feel like it. I mean, it's been a long time. It's like 17 years ago. So maybe I was burnout, but I can't remember. But I remember like really loving my patients and really feeling like I was helping them like have a good death and have a pain-free experience and be with their family more and, you know, have their last wishes met and just, you know, do what they wanted to see happen in their lives, even in long-term care. Even with as messed up as long-term care was, and as much as I hated the system, I loved my little patients. I loved going to see them. I still think about them, even, you know, like their families. So even if you're not just fed up and burnt out, but you're ready, you're like, I want to make a bigger impact. I want to do something different. I'm ready to expand my personal horizons and my personal knowledge and learn something new or different, or use my skills in a different way.
Yeah.
To me, that's what motivated me, was like, I know I have these skills. I know they're good for this, but I think they could be good for more, and I want to use them differently.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah, well, I think that's really helpful. And this is stuff I wish I would have known as a new nurse. This is kind of the whole purpose of this series, because I just think it seems, since I've been working with the NNBA, it seems like people think it's very black and white. You either work bedside or you own your own business.
Right.
And that's just really not how it is.
Yeah.
And as a nurse, a newer nurse, I realized very quickly I didn't like bedside. Like my first nursing job, I worked a month, which I ended up working there for like 2 years, PRN, but I worked there a month and was like, no. And I started applying for like sales and case management and all these different care transition coordinators and area territory manager. Like I just knew that it wasn't for me. So I want other nurses to see, like, you have so many options. Nursing is the best career for someone who doesn't know what they want to do. So,
and I just can't stress enough how these non-traditional roles of any kind prepare you for running your own business and open that maybe it's not even something you would consider. Like, how could I even have my own business? All I know how to do is clock in and take care of people. That's all I'm good at. Once you kind of see a different angle and see operations and see care and see coordination from a different side, any different side, you realize you have a lot more to offer and on a bigger scale. And then all of a sudden, these opportunities start feeling more possible, start feeling more doable. You start having ideas, you start having the realization that you actually could do something different. So I think it's just allowing yourself to expand.
Yeah. Well, I hope that was encouraging. And if not, I hope it at least was funny, because we were getting attacked by bugs the whole time. But next week, the next 2 weeks, we'll have some people talking about more specific career alternatives and non-traditional roles. So we're super excited about that. If you guys have any questions, always you can email me at casey@nursesbusiness.com. Also, keep an eye out. We have our newsletters coming out tomorrow with some exciting info. If you are interested in the conference or being a part of the conference, definitely pay attention to that. And if you're a member, don't forget that you get special updates and opportunities as an active member. So if you want to know more about that, you can email me as well at casey@nursesbusiness.com.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.